Hello everybody, welcome to another exciting, hair-raising, fun-filled, adventurous episode of Radiorama, where, as the name implies, I show you how to work on radios, televisions, stereo systems, record players, all that good stuff. And today we have I believe it's probably I couldn't find much information about this, but essentially it's a Japanese JVC made-for company called Delmonico, who was located in upstate New York. Kind of a strange company. They would import stuff from German and Japanese manufacturers and put their names on it. But this is a JVC. It's an impressively long set. And even though this is... Why is that dryer so freaking loud? Anyway, it's packed full of 11 tubes. It has an MPX, multiplex system for true FM stereo. And it has 4 speakers. That's very strange. You can fold these little ears out, and there's a speaker there on the side, and then there's 2 speakers in the front. I've had experiences with this model before, and they tend to just work. They put a lot of good quality components in it. Other than that, usually the control pots get all gummed up, so I'm expecting I might have some issues there. Looks like our pilot light is lit.
Golf carts.
Coming into school,
From around the country.
Well, AM seems to work okay.
De tus aplicaciones. Deja el
Yeah, as I suspected, I've got some dirty controls in there. Let's take the back off this bad boy and see what's going on inside. It's been a few years since I worked on this model. Alright, let's take a looky-loo inside of here. Those speakers are nothing to write home about whatsoever. As we can tell by the sound, it's not amazing sounding. I guess the idea was, well, if there's 2 sort of crappy speakers, 4 will be even better. It's unusual to see a tabletop set, especially a hot chassis or a floating hot chassis, whichever this is, with this many tubes. This appears... I'm wondering if that's the separate... If that's possibly the separate multiplex adapter. Looks like here we have the rectifier and push-pull output. Should be a pretty damn sensitive set. Here's the thing I don't like about it, which is you can't unplug the speakers. Reminds me more of a German set where everything's kind of like hardwired. Probably goes through that chassis. Probably the idea that is like they give you so much wire that you can just loosen some of the clamps that are holding it on there and do it just pulled out of the cabinet and just leave it attached to the cabinet. I'm not sure if that's going to be practical, but we'll see. It looks like these 2 chassis are joined together, so I can just probably pull it out as one unit. I see the end of this one capacitor here. That is most likely an oil capacitor, which means it's probably fine. Like I said, my experience with a lot of these is that, or a lot of these this era of Japanese set, is they just used some pretty good quality components that have a lot of longevity. Need to replace that. That is the across the line cap. That most certainly, I don't trust that. I'm curious what the condition of that electrolytic is. So let's pull the chassis out and see what's going on inside. Well, it took a little bit of doing, but I got the chassis out. And just like all the other Japanese sets I've worked on from this time period, you have to use a little teeny pair of pliers to bend the center flap of the tuning indicator so you can release the tuning string from it. And what I do is I mark where either one of those begin and end, so when I put it back together again I can crimp it back around there again. And my first look under here reveals kind of a mixed bag. On one hand we have a lot of ceramic cap capacitors, which are good forever, basically. We also have a whole bunch of old school dog bone resistors. These usually are pretty good. Then we have a pretty large smattering of good old-fashioned paper capacitors. These guys here, there's a ton of them in this thing. I count just in this area alone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Possibly some under there, and then we have a couple over here. It is a true hot chassis set, as in like we have one end of the AC cable going to chassis ground, but they've done a good job of making sure to isolate the user physically from that hazard. We have nylon spacers for all of the mounting screws, so that no one, if you touch the screws on the bottom, it's not going to bother you. And all the pots are isolated with nylon as well, so that's fine. If I get a hot chassis set where it's really and truly a hot chassis, where someone could potentially touch something that could shock the crap out of them, then that's a problem. But this one is pretty well physically isolated from the user, so I'm okay with that. So what I'm going to have to do is come in here and just start replacing all of these guys. They're marked with their capacitance values here, 0.0032 microfarads, and there's a schematic on the bottom of this thing, so if I can't read what these are, I can just trace it out anyway. Looks like we have a few low value electrolytic capacitors here. These need to be replaced. Boy, 0.5 of a microfarad, 0.1 of a microfarad. A lot of work to do in this thing. It's a lot more than I thought. There's a lot of soft components that definitely need to be replaced, so it's going to be a big time suck, but that's okay. Welcome back to day number 2 of working on the Looooong JVC. Didn't get very far last night. I just wasn't really in the mood. It's not fun replacing capacitors, but it has to be done. And I got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I got about 6 done last night. I've got approximately 1, 2, 3. I thought there was another one hidden somewhere in here. 1, 2, 3. 3 paper caps on this chassis. 3, 4 on this side. And then I have two electrolytics that need to be replaced. And after that, we need to clean all of the contacts in these pots and contact wafer switches for the bands. And then we'll give it a test fire. It should work because it worked fine before. It just needed to have contacts cleaned. Actually, I take that back. There's another electrolytic hidden under here. They're not very high voltage electrolytics. It's only 50 volts. Probably not a whole lot going on there. It's probably a bias cap. So yeah, I think I've shown everybody how to do this over time, how to replace capacitors. You just read the value on the cap, which is, this one for example is 1/10 of a microfarad. And what I do is I'll snip one end like so and leave like a long length so I know where it came from. Attach one end of your new cap there, and then snip the other side and attach the other side of your new cap to that side. That way you don't lose your place. And just do that one at a time and until you get the job done. So I'll see you when I get the rest of these guys replaced, and then we'll clean the contacts. And it's chassis like these that makes me want to go cross-eyed. So I got everything replaced in it, even the little electrolytics. I've usually found that the main electrolytics in these things are just fine, so I'm going to leave it alone for now. The next thing I need to do is clean the contacts. And we're going to do that with a little magic juice, also known as WD-40. And you see these little slots in the side of the pots here? You just want to flood them with this stuff. Mostly all it's kerosene. I mean, mostly it's one WD-40 is just mostly kerosene and a little bit of other stuff that mostly evaporates. And let's get this one here. Don't know what that does. Probably the tone control. One of these is the volume pot and the tone control. I mean the balance control, and you can tell it's stereo because we have 2 pots, one for each channel. Just want to work it in real good. And then the last thing we want to do is get the wafer switches. It's hard to turn. Let me get one of the knobs here so I can turn it better. I usually be a little more liberal with on the wafer switches. That's usually where you have most of your contact issues. And then, if you happen to have some canned air sitting around, I need to buy more of it. I'm just about out. You can spray it out. That's the last of that can, but just gets the excess material out of there. I don't know what this does, but I'll spray it anyway. It's bound to have some sort of thing in the back of the cover. What does it say here? It doesn't say anything. Well, let's leave it alone. I don't think it has anything to do with maybe it's for fine-tuning whether you're pulling in stations from afar or closer. Beats me. We need to replace this guy too. In fact, you see, this guy is blown up. It's probably gotten hit by lightning or something. We need to put a proper safety cap across that. We're going to use a 0.01 rated microfarad safety cap. It's going to be one of these guys, X2, Y2 across the line. Guaranteed to split open if it gets hit by lightning or some other catastrophic event happens in the life of your radio. And so what I'll do is I'll replace that, and then since conveniently everything is still hooked up to the speakers and all that, we can test the unit, see if we're still working, and then we're going to do some other stuff like clean the chassis, clean the tubes, clean the tube sockets, lubricate the tuning condenser and all of the little pulleys that are associated with it, and then we'll move on to adding our infamous, oh so requested audio input feature that people have a love and hate relationship with it. So let's replace this guy, and then we'll plug it up to a cheater cord and see if we're still firing on all cylinders. All right, it's do or die time. I'm going to plug it into my isolation transformer because this is a kind of hot chassis set, and I don't want to run the possibility of electrocuting the crap out of myself. So we got the pilot light going. I can't remember which one is his volume. I'll just turn them all up a little bit.
Coming up at 6:40.
Consumers facing 10,000.
Didn't have his stuff, and that's his worst long time. Still, yeah.
Sympathy. Everybody wants to. Puede disfrutar de lo increíbles que se sienten.
Here on Bosch Focus wiper blades plus earn double.
Was the rocket launchers.
Peace in Russian and she decided.
Pretty sensitive on
show.
FM. Got a little bit of dirt still in the.
Nope, can't be safe because
Let's try AM.
hear it yet, and these other things. Ability to sell your house back.
I started calibrate to.
When it's black mass.
That's the latest.
Very good on AM, but I'm hearing a little bit of. I hope that's not silver mica disease in FM. Now, maybe we just got a dirty tube socket. Yeah. That's certainly, yeah, we need to clean these tube sockets because that is interfering with radio reception. That's not a good sign. Yep, these tube sockets are filthy. They all need to be cleaned. Probably need to maybe clean the pins. This radio came out of a house in South San Francisco, which is, there's microclimates where I live. Where I live is almost like a desert for a good part of the year, and over in that part of San Francisco, it's pretty damp. So I get a feeling there's probably some corrosion on some of these contacts, and that's causing some contact issues with the tubes in their sockets. So we'll just take them all out, clean them all up, and also clean the metal chassis with a wet rag, just because I want it to make it all look all purty and everything. And then I will lubricate in fact, I'll do that now. Let us lubricate the tuning condenser. There's little bearings up in the front, and there's a little bearing surface in the back. You want to do that so it makes good contact with that back bracket there. That's already moving a lot better. And meanwhile, all I do is I get a little bit of Windex and some paper towels, and I just clean all that up. Squirt all the tube sockets with a contact cleaner, or WD-40 if you don't have any of that stuff. And then we'll give it a test again to see if we're going to make an improvement in the reliability of the FM signal. All right, so we got everything cleaned up here. Again, plug it into my isolation transformer. Turn her on. Remember, this is volume, I believe. Got it on FM.
Well, what about the free sunglasses?
That was just a thing to show for it, at least military.
Have to resist the myth.
To that point.
Much better. Of course, AM's going to be blaringly loud.
So God moved
Hands on that third base.
originals and new digital copies.
It's on the side of the road, but I thought, well, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's electric, they have different categories.
All right, that sounds good. I'm not sure if we've got both channels working properly, though. Let's see, which one of these is balance? Balance, 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 balance. Balance is the guy on the end here.
But all these police departments are understaffed.
Plus, when you fill up with premium at Circle K, you can save up to 20 cents per gallon. Offer valid Thursdays or Fridays at participating stores. For details, visit CircleK.com. Circle K. How convenient.
Circle up, team. We've got status. Everyone's marketing consultancy client roster is skyrocketing. So this week is a biggie. We've got the pitch and 3 client meetings. She needs another analyst before her team's plummets. The competitive analysis on
It's hard for me to tell if the channels are working because I'm above this. I can't really, the speakers are all facing away from me. Let's see if I can flip this over on its back so I can get to the speakers better. Well, it's a good thing I worked on this model before because, yes, one of the channels is out. But then I remembered there was this weird thing that happened with the last one, which is you have this little terminal in the back here. And you need to put wires number 1 and 2 together if you intend to run it without any external speakers. So that link is not connected. If that makes sense.
And as far as Jordan Poole is concerned, I mean, hey, he said it himself when they interviewed him.
Guess it wasn't that. I was just say, crap.
He gets to analyze.
Come on now.
He gets to understand why Steph is so good at what he does. And now it's rubbing off on him.
There we go. So when I put it back in the case, I'll put those little links together and then we'll have proper stereo. For now, I'm going to alligator clip them together. I want to make sure we got proper stereo separation. All right, so welcome to day number 3 of working on the set. And I had to go in for dinner last night because we had company over, so I had to abandon my project. But it's working pretty good now. Then we've got good stereo separation. So with that, I think I'm going to do the last part of this project, which is a little cosmetic work, and I'm going to add the oh so famous audio input feature. And I'm curious how I'm going to be able to do it on this one, because we have stereo. It means I might have to use 2 transformers, because usually stereos that I work on are not hot chassis sets like these. They're usually a bigger unit, like one of those guys or something. So if we want to have true stereo, probably need to find a way how to get right and left channels properly to each. All right, so this one's a little more tricky compared to the most of the sets I work on, where it's mono and there's a little more room to work in. So what I've been doing is, first of all, you can tell sometimes which is your audio input side by touching one of the outer leads of the volume pot. That's pretty loud. Does it both sides. It really doesn't do anything there. I mean, there's a little bit of a pop, but there's no hum. That tells me that's probably ground, which makes sense because you've got both of these tied together here. So I'm going to test that theory by running a line in before I put anything in there permanently. And I also got 2 of these isolation transformers. Let me turn this guy off. These I buy by the bulk, and they are 120 volts in primary, 12 volts out secondary. You run your audio input through your secondary, and then your primary runs into the volume pot. And I say we might need 2 of these because we need a negative on both sides of each of the incoming leads, as well as a positive. And usually I have a mono set and I just tie the 2 ends together and I get away with one of these. Probably gonna need 2 in this case. And where to put them, I don't know, because there's not a lot of room in here at all. Alright, so I'm testing out my Bluetooth device, and I tried hooking it up in several different configurations. Just one side of the volume of the stacked volume control, and then the other. And I tried both channels, the alligator clip, the right and left channel, to what I thought was the right and left channel of the stack of volume pots. Makes no difference. It appears that both of the tops, or the positives of the pots, are channeled together through the audio, so I can get away with just one transformer, because apparently, again, I think it's, and someone needs to explain to me how multiplexes work, because it's some funky magical weirdness that's essentially synthetic stereo, and I'm not an engineer, so if someone in the comment section can explain what that is, that'd probably help me understand why in many of these early sets you can really only get stereo and FM via a multiplex. So, but anyway, it's going to be a lot easier. I can find a much easier time trying to find a place for one of these versus 2. I think I can put it over here and just loop the wire over this way. It's not that far to go. And then I'll need to add a switch that will decouple these sets' radio frequency incoming, whatever you call it. It's probably one of these guys. We'll have to pull one after the other. The easiest way to determine which wire it could be is trace the one that goes to your final RF transformer. And I think that is it. It makes sense, right? It's going to the center of this wafer switch. And there's probably one that cuts off FM and one that cuts off AM. And we can just choose one of the, I'm probably going to pick AM because at least FM are still pleasant things to listen to. So if there's any slight chance of a little bit of interference in AM, which it shouldn't be, you'll still have, super clean AM, but very clean FM, and the ability to run your music through it. And this one, let's just see your amount of speakers. It's going to be decent. It's not going to win any awards, but none of these dies do. We have crappy little pop hen speakers like that. All right, this one was not as easy because there was just not a lot of room to work. I had to kind of build the components before I put them in this position. And this is hard to film, but you see the two resistors on the end here. Those are two 90 ohm resistors, and on either end, right and left channels go through, and then the two ends of the resistors tie together. That's the top of the incoming audio that goes to the top of the volume control. The other side, of course, is the ground. And the audio signal is coupled with, and you can't see them because I covered them in glue already, a resistor in series with a 0.02 rated cap. The resistor is rated half the value of the volume pot's resistance value. Sure enough, this wire right here disconnects AM. So I'll just run the audio through AM, and then we'll have, this will be switched. We're on a wire from here and there out the back. There'll be a little tiny switch in the back of the board here, which already has a bunch of holes that'll work for the switch. But the audio is going through it just fine. Let the good times roll. Won't you let the good times roll? Not sure if YouTube will catch that, but anyway, it sounds pretty good. The other thing I did is I put a little glue around the knot of the cord, so if someone yanks on it real hard, which I don't want them to, they're not going to possibly rip the cord or get it caught on something here. And it keeps it in place, keeps it from shifting around. Before I button it up, I'm going to add the switch wire and also put some glue over the top of this, in the slight case that someday it falls off and I don't want it to hit any of its components on its way out. I glued the crap out of these because I have this fear that I definitely don't want any of those to come loose. So far none have, but whatever. Good practice to be more safe than sorry. All right, it's all back together again. This one was definitely, I'd say, an 8 out of 10 out of the pain in the ass scale. But it's definitely a weird set you do not see very often. I've got my Bluetooth running through it right now. Anyway, it sounds pretty dang good. I was able to get all the stupid dial string stuff put back on there properly. And let's go ahead and unplug this and turn on the radio. There's a switch in the back here, and we are on AM. Let's go to FM.
It's 6 o'clock.
We went back to Dr. Muhammad Nassar, and there's
Legal rights?
Good evening. It's Wednesday, April 20th. Russian forces poised.
Yes, correct.
Anyway, it works pretty good. I might spend a little more time buffing up the case. I kind of rushed on it earlier. Might want to try to fill in these scratches a little bit. We actually have two of these. We have one that's in basically mint condition, and this came in from, as I mentioned, the repairman's house. It's not in as good a shape, so it will be auction or sales fundraising material. All right, guys, as always, thanks so much for bearing with me and putting up with all the warts and everything, warts and all, and when it comes to these strange restoration projects. So stay tuned, because the episode that's coming right after this is going to be a 1963 Magnavox television/stereo system. I've already tore into it because I can't wait. But in the meantime, this one's done. If you like what you see, leave some comments down below and press that like button. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Adios.